Have you guys ever heard of weatherward seat covers? Well, today we're going to be showing you guys how to put these seat covers on your truck and giving a little review of them because they are really nice and I want you guys to check them out. I'll put a link to these seat covers in the description down below so you guys can go check it out. Took them out of that big box right there. They're actually really nice. They're leather. And as you guys can see, there's that nice seat cover down there. It fits really tight, really nice. As you guys can see, these seat covers look absolutely amazing. They're really comfortable and they look really good too. Everything just looks really solid. They almost look like they're the actual seats of the truck. Once you get them installed, it's pretty straightforward. It'll take you a little bit of time. But at the very end, there's these little clips. Little hooks, and what you're going to do is you're going to want to come to the back, and you guys saw these little loops here on the back of the seat cover. You're going to take this, you're going to put it inside there, and you're going to hook this on something underneath the chair or underneath the seat so that you don't see this whole flapping thing here. But otherwise, they look absolutely beautiful. As you can see, I'm still in the midst of installing them, but we'll take a look at the final product. And yeah, pretty impressed with these seat covers so far. I cleaned the truck out the other day, and it's absolutely beautiful in here. These seat covers are amazing looking. They just look so good. But that's enough talking. Let's get to the live action. Full Race Motorsports just came out with a kit that allows you to be able to use the Garrett Power Max Stage 2 turbos, the Gen 2 ones, on your 2021 Plus 3.5 Ecoboost. This kit was specifically made for the Raptor, but if you have a dual exhaust like I do on my F150, you can use this kit on your F150. Now, there's so much stuff in this kit, and there's so many really cool things, and I got a giant pile of boxes to show you guys. We're gonna go through everything, lay it all out, take a look at everything, and then we're gonna be doing a full install in this video and testing. We're gonna see what it does in the quarter mile, 0 to 60, but that's the plan, guys. So let's dive into these parts and see what we got. So let's go ahead and open this Full Race box first and see what we got. All right, guys, this kit is put together so nicely. Look at this bag with a Ziploc. What in the world? Full Race bag with a Ziploc? You're kidding. And you can see there's a whole lot of stuff in there. We'll check that out in a minute. There's the box for the Garrett turbos. All right, we got manifolds right here. All right, guys, and then in your kit, there's gonna be a set of K&N turbo inlet tubes. Because you're not going to be able to use your factory ones. So there's those. And then lastly, we have this big box, which is obviously the SPD downpipes. Let's go ahead and take a look at these. And these downpipes, guys, these are the ones that Full Race had SPD designed. That they have they're for the Gen 3, but they have a different flange that allows them to work on the Gen 2 turbos. There they are. So as you guys can see, this flange right here is designed to fit perfectly to the back of the turbine housing on the Gen 2 turbos. All right, guys, we are about to install the Full Race Gen 3 Formline turbo kit on our 2022 F150. I already said a bunch of this already. Anyways, we got lots of parts here, guys. We got coolant lines, we got Garrett Power Max turbos, we got oil lines and oil drain lines. Manifolds adapted for the Gen 3 with the EGR line there. We got gaskets, we got clamps, we got actuator pigtails, we got nuts and bolts, we got inlet tubes, we got couplers for those giant inlets. All right guys, we're gonna start by disconnecting the battery real quick, and then we'll start getting the down pipes disconnected down below. Really shooting out of there. Oh my word. Oh my goodness. You should have seen that. It was streaming out. It was streaming outside the wheel well of the truck. Alright guys, then you're going to disconnect these two coolant lines, and then you're going to disconnect the oil feed line. The one coolant line is over here on the side, and the bolt is actually pretty easy to get to. The other one is right there, and then the feed line is right over there. Pretty easy to get to as well. So we went ahead and replaced all of these studs from Full Race. Let's compare the Power Max to that. That's crazy. You guys can see how monstrously fat this turbine housing is right here compared to the factory housing. It's so tiny. And if we flip it over, you guys can see how big this turbine housing actually is compared to the factory housing. It's extremely small. Also, you guys can see that the Garrett PowerMax has a slightly bigger in diameter housing, like from edge to edge. It's bigger, and it's also, you know, this right here is really wide and large, and going inside there's really large as well. And on the factory turbo, it kind of goes to this really tight little elbow right there, and there's not a lot of room in there. And of course, we can't deny the fact that this inlet on the PowerMax is huge compared to factory. You guys know that these are the Stage 5 Plus turbos, and they're 46mm compressor wheels, same size as the Garrett PowerMax. That's 46mm as well. Of course, we got more blades and less blades here, so theoretically this would flow better on the top end, but the reality is, with this setup, we're ditching the factory housings. That's the big thing. And we're coming to these gigantic housings, so this is going to be pretty awesome. Alright, I'm trying to show you guys the size difference as best I can. You can see how wide and skinny the turbine housing is there. Got them both kind of sitting the same way. You can see how much fatter and bigger turbine housing is on the Garrett. Pretty amazing. Alright guys, so we got a bunch of stuff in our kit here. We're going to need a manifold right here. This is the passenger side because it has the EGR line on it. So we're going to need a manifold for over there. We're going to need our oil drain line. We're going to need some coolant lines. So just take that whole bag over there. And then we're going to need the oil line, which I believe is this one, because that's how it mounts just like that. So I'm pretty sure, yep, that's that side. And then we won't need that till later. Won't need that till later. We're gonna have to figure out these heat shields. So I'm trying to remember which one is which. Okay, that one's for this side. So we need this heat shield, and we also need our hardware. We need a gasket for the manifold. We need an actuator harness, and we need the bolts for the heat shield. And then we also need our 3 bolts for the turbo to the manifold. So there's those 3. Those are going to be the Torx. Alright guys, so one thing that Full Race mentioned in their video, you can go check out their video on the Gen 2 Formline turbo install. What you have to do is you have to take these Gen 2 heat shields, and you're going to have to cut them a little bit to fit the larger housing of the Garrett PowerMax turbos. So you can see here, I notched it here, I cut some there, and I also cut a little bit right there to be able to get that to fit. So it all fits now, but I think that there's more that I have to do. So I'm going to take the manifold, and what we're going to do is we're just going to hold the manifold here and make sure that it's not touching the manifold. Alright guys, I just double checked. It looks like it should fit, so I'm going to go ahead and bolt this heat shield down with the bolts that I ordered. One thing I will say is that a heat shield and the bolts don't come with the kit. So if you don't already have heat shields, you're going to have to order those separately from Ford. There's the part number. You can easily find these if you just look for like turbo heat shield on like Ford parts. So you can find these, just make sure they're for the Gen 2. And then also you can find the bolts as well. Also, I want to compare the Gen 3 Full Race Formline manifolds that are a direct replacement versus the Gen 3 Full Race Formline manifolds that come in the Garrett PowerMax Formline kit. And these, of course, are Gen 2 basically, but they're adapted to work on the Gen 3 with the EGR line. So the fact that the Gen 3 turbos have a rotary wastegate, it doesn't allow you to have as much room on the manifolds. Thus, the runners are a little bit smaller in diameter than the Gen 2 adapted Gen 3 manifolds. These runners are much larger. The openings are huge inside there. They're just massive, very large runners because the Gen 2 turbos have a different wastegate actuator design. So that's just an interesting fact that Jeff at Full Race told me. For you guys wondering why these Gen 3 manifolds actually look slightly smaller, it's because you can't make that. You can't make them any bigger. It just won't fit. Right into its little spot right there. All right, guys, so you got your Garrett PowerMax Turbo. Gonna put the oil drain line on. You guys can see it here. It's got a very long tube right here. The other side isn't quite the same. So we're gonna go ahead and put a little bit of silicone lubricant that Full Race provides in the kit. We're gonna put that on this O-ring right here, and then it should just pop right into the turbo beautifully with no issue. And then there's a little screw that comes in the Garrett PowerMax Turbo. You can take that screw out and then you'll put it back in. That's what's going to hold the drain line onto the turbo. All right, so we got our wastegate actuator line up here. And as you guys know, we can't just plug that in, but we have this cool adapter from Full Race. Because I had it backwards. All right, so we put that together and then just kind of put that up there, and then we plug this into here. Put our little lock on it. Should be good to go. All right, guys, and then oil line, you'll just kind of pull it up, tap it in there, it goes right there. Grab one of the bolts off your other turbos, stick it in there, and we'll use our Torx. All right, guys, so I got one of the turbos in, but of course I'm not finished. Still got the other side to do. And we got to button up some stuff, but it's after 11 o'clock, so I'm going to go to bed, but I'm going to show you guys real quick what I did. So there is the good old trusty Garrett PowerMax Turbo. Everything went in perfectly. Little bit of an issue getting the coolant line, the AN fitting on, but I got it, so got everything plugged in and hooked up. I just got to put the starter back, and then we'll start getting downpipes in and stuff, but we got to get the other side first, and then it'll be time to hook up all the turbo plumbing and everything too. All right, guys, so once you get your manifold off there and the turbo out of there, you're going to take the oil line off, which comes from over there. Then you're going to take your other coolant line, which comes from there. And then the other coolant line, you can see the tip of it right there. I still got to pull that out of the back of the head there. It's kind of a pain. It's pretty tight back there. So just be patient and take it slow. But we're gonna pull that out. And then we got our pile of stuff that we need for this side. We need a manifold. We need the gasket. We need our oil drain line, our stud and nut kit for the manifold, and then our oil feed line from Full Race, and then our wastegate actuator pigtail, and then the rest of our coolant lines, and then of course our turbo bolts too. All right guys, so this is a speed sensor and gauge kit from Full Race. The sensor is going to come from Garrett, and then the sensor, or the gauge, comes from Full Race. So we just want to be able to see how fast we're speeding these Power Max turbos too. So might as well just throw a speed sensor and gauge in there. This stuff looks a little confusing when you first look at it. This is, we're not going to use this. This is for data logging and everything. And this is, this comes with, both of these things come with the Garrett, sensor. So we don't need that because we're going to just use this, because this plugs directly into the gate, or into the sensor, and then this plugs into the gauge, and then we power it from here. So pretty simple. It's, like I said, a little confusing when you first look at it, but it's actually pretty simple. All right guys, so installing the speed sensor is pretty easy. You're just going to take this little nut out of here, pull this little spacer out of there, ditch that. Then you're going to bring your sensor over here, and we're just going to drop that right down in the hole and put our little screw in it. And what we want to check is we want to make sure that the compressor wheel can still spin. All right guys, it's time to put the manifold on. We're going to go ahead and put some of this anti-seize compound on all of our studs. All right, then we're going to bring them up in here, and we'll just thread them in there, start them all by hand. All right, now that we got all of our studs in there, we're going to come in here with our gasket. Be careful with this gasket because it is extremely sharp. Alright guys, we're about to drop the turbo in there. I'm going to take some silicone lubricant, put it right here on this O-ring, right here on the O-ring of the oil drain line. Get that lubricated up a little bit. I'm going to put some on the snout too, going in. And then some right here. All right, guys, we got the downpipes hooked up. You can see, absolutely beautiful. And the way they connect up to the turbos is just with those two bolts there. Focus, there we go. Just with those two bolts, they bolt right to the turbo with that little gasket that comes with the full race kit. So it's going to bolt directly up to the housing, the turbine housing of the turbo. There's no turbo adapter. So the SPD downpipes, they are manufactured with that ability to just go right to the turbine housing. Of course, this side's done as well. Everything's all hooked up. So absolutely beautiful V-band clamp there. Now we just got to go hook up the rest of the plumbing on the turbos up above, and then it's going to be time to give her a start. All right, guys, so we got this side done. You can see the little 90 piece that full race gives you. It just kind of fits in there just like that. Let's take a look at it from the wheel well real quick. This will give you guys a better idea of what's going on. So that piece, it 90s, and then it comes down into the turbo right there. And then of course we have our big inlet adapters there. Now we just got to do the other side. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you guys take a look at it, you can see there's the Power Max turbo, and you can obviously see that this piece that comes in the kit goes just straight down onto the turbo there and then into this piece right here. So it's pretty easy to see that. I'm going to go ahead and put the turbo inlet pipe in first with the big inlet adapter on there already. Slide it in because that way I can make sure it's in there properly. All right, guys, after lots of struggling, we finally got all of the turbo plumbing in, inlet tubes, K&N inlet tubes, and the full race boots and everything, T-clamps, everything's all tightened down, ready to go. The last thing we have to do is fill it with coolant, plug in the battery, and then we're gonna prime it, and then we're gonna go ahead and start it. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and start the truck. I believe the key's in here. It is. All right, foot down on the gas, foot on the brake. All right, guys, truck sounds good. There's no leaks. Let's go ahead and do the catalytic converter break-in process. All right, guys, we're driving it. It's raining really hard right now, which is really unfortunate, but I still want to go out and drive it and make sure it runs okay, make sure oil pressure is good and all that stuff. So I'm gonna test it out real quick. You guys will get to hear some like sound clips and stuff in this video also. I just won't be doing them today. All right, guys, so I was gonna add more to this video, some testing, draggy pulls, different things like that, but this video is already like 30 minutes long, so I think we're going to end it off here, and we'll do some of that stuff in a later video. But thanks to Full Race Motorsports, that's going to be it for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later.